So that should open up for you, Andrew, here in a moment.
Okay. Welcome in, everybody.
Hello.
Are we live yet?
Yes, we are live.
Oh,
I'm not seeing anybody.
Gotcha.
Recording in progress.
Yes. There you go. Because all the audio will come through here. Perfect.
All right, folks. Andrew, you all set?
Yes.
Cool.
I believe so.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. I'd like to now call this regular meeting of the KCRHA Implementation Board to order. I'd like to start by grounding our work in our theory of change, which is that if we create a homeless response system that centers people with lived experience, then we'll be able to focus on responding to needs and eliminating inequities in order to end homelessness for all. So this is a hybrid meeting, as all of our meetings will be going forward. So there's a physical location as well as virtual access. I want to take a moment and thank Mayor Keith Scully and the City of Shoreline for letting us borrow their City Hall today. Very grateful to be able to be in person with at least a few folks. Austin, would you please take our roll?
Absolutely. Sweet. Pastor Carrie Anderson, member Carrie Anderson,
Present.
member Nate Caminos,
Here.
member Paula Carvalho. Carvalho. Member Shelmanak,
Here.
member Merritts,
Present.
member Spotted Elk,
Present.
member McHenry. Member McHenry. Member Patnow,
Here.
member Brandon. Member Brandon. Member Reddy,
Present.
member Rankin,
Here.
member Ross.
Here.
And with that, I notice a vacancy on the lived experience. So is alternate Floyd available on this call?
Here.
Awesome. Thank you. The clerk recognizes a quorum.
All right. Thank you very much, Austin. I'd like to also make sure that we acknowledge that King County is located on the unceded traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples. We honor this land and its people, past and present, and we are committed to directing funding and resources to organizations led by and in support of Native and Indigenous peoples. And we can keep a close eye out for any
Yes.
messages.
Yes.
So at every meeting, we reserve time for public comment. If you'd like to provide comments, please raise your hand in Zoom and Austin will call on you in order received after the consent agenda. I believe today we have scheduled 15 minutes for public comment. We're doing it a little bit differently. We're doing 1 minute
Each, yep, 1 minute.
comments to try to allow for as many as possible, but we will only have those first 15. Oh, I'm sorry. I see Jaja's hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt somehow, but Austin, is it possible for you to send a link to Keisha? She said she is not able to get in.
Oh, Keisha is not able to get in?
Yeah,
Keisha?
she keeps trying
Yeah.
and she said she can't get in. Thank you so much.
Interesting. Yes, I will follow up with that.
Would you mind trying her personally? Also?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. We will keep a close eye out. And Keisha, if you were listening, okay. You see member Spotted Elk has joined us as well. Okay. Also, just making note of that when you're able, and if we can get once member Brandon joins us,
Yes.
that'll be fantastic. So, on our consent agenda is the approval of the minutes from our March 2023 implementation board meeting. Is there a motion to approve that consent agenda?
I move to approve.
Carrie
Uh,
Anderson, second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Minutes are approved. Thank you. So we are going to move to our CO update and then public comment. So CO Jones, if you can join us.
Yep. Hello.
And members, if you can save your questions until the end. Be appreciated.
I will be brief and allow questions to ensure that there are time for questions from the members. The first thing that I will note is just an update on contracts process. I think that some folks had requested some discussion on that. As of today, we have 156 contracts finalized, and of the remainder, 27 contracts are with KCRHA for review of terms, accounting, and regulatory compliance. 32 contracts are still with service providers for review. 15.3 million has been paid out through 351 invoices thus far. And average time from invoice submission to payment is 5 days. I think that there are a couple things that I would just note in terms of some opportunities for improvement in the contracting system, although the board members will hear more about this at the budget committee meeting next week. But I think that we have identified a need to either stabilize Flux or rethink how it interacts with our contracting and grant making process. That's the system that we use. We have also identified a need to increase capacity, and that has been inside the budget discussion and was in the supplemental budget that was transmitted through the implementation board to the governing committee and adopted by both bodies. And we will discuss with the city and county and other funding partners over the course of the summer and fall. And then I think we have also identified a need to work with our funding partners to establish interim funding information that can be used to initiate the contracting process before the end of the year. So we are not able to initiate our process until we have certain information that comes from city, county, other funding partners in terms of the type of money that's used or going to be loaded into the contracts, some of the amounts that fluctuate, COLAs, et cetera. As well as the finalizing of our master service agreements with the city and county and any other funding partners, which often actually takes a significant period of time so far anyway into the next calendar year. And so we'll need to work with those partners to create a process by which we can load contracts with either interim detail or detail that or frankly finalize the details sooner so that we are able to get those contracts out the door faster. And then the other thing that I would note is that we continue to look for opportunities to figure out ways to amend the contracting process. I believe this was raised in the letter that we received from providers, but to amend the contracting process or contracts rather into the following fiscal year to avoid disruption in having a contract vehicle that folks are able to bill to. Because of the nature of KCRHA's finances, we have had some difficulty with that process, particularly given that we are not a revenue generating agency and cannot carry money across fiscal years without very specific permissions that are granted by our funders. And that has been a barrier, but we are working with our funding partners to see if we can solve that. The other update that I want to give before turning to the members for questions is just on the continued ramp down of the LEC hotels. So briefly, and you all received some of this information by email, But we did, run a 12-day emergency incident. Over the course of that time, we engaged with a little under 220 people across 4 hotels. At peak, we had about 196 folks who were in need of stable placement. We were able to transition about 150 folks to temporary placement, exited about 40 to housing before the state money came through, which allowed us to switch into a more slightly elongated stability period. That state money will expire on June 30th. And so right now, the same teams, which include Salvation Army, REWA, Neighborhood House, Mary's Place, Urban League, REACH, DESC, Catholic Community Services, like really everybody, including the authority's own system advocate teams, remain deployed to the 2 locations where we have folks who were coming out of that crisis who are still in the process of transitioning to either a stable temporary or permanent placement. All of that work, again, will need to be done by June 30th in order to fully utilize or take advantage of the state funds that have been made available to stabilize folks. There's a significant amount of concern that I think that the RHA team continues to have about the nature of the program. But per, I think some of the things that we have found and some discussion with the city and county and others, we are waiting for a formal audit and other, I think, processes that are being initiated outside of the RHA before moving forward in any way. And at this point are primarily focused on just getting these households into stable placements. I think that concludes my report.
Before we open to questions, I just want to note that board member Brandon has joined us. We have all 3 of our lived experience seats filled with board members Rankin, Spotted Elk, and Brandon. Alternate member Floyd, if you wouldn't mind staying with us, though you will not be voting today if they remain here. Sorry for that. Just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and clerk recognizes.
Thank you. And I see our first questions from board member Moritz.
Hi, thank you, Sema. Thank you, Mark. 2 questions in the order that you went. Firstly, with regards to the service providers and the payment issues, I understand that these processes are new and take time to put in place. Are you able to commit to a timeline by which the service providers will be fully paid? And do we have any provisions to help maintain their liquidity and offset any additional costs that they're incurring due to the lack of payments? I understand that we've been able to pay about $13 million this year so far out of the $110 million contract value. So there's quite a lot of cash flow that those service providers are missing.
We paid $15.3 million, and I would note that the vast majority of our contracts are either cost reimbursement or work on some other invoicing cycle. So we do not pay out $250 million in lump sums to providers. The nature of the payment cycle and the type of payment varies contract to contract. We do not have in place any function to help providers maintain liquidity if that is an issue that they are having, although certainly we can look at what opportunities we may have for process improvement in that space. In terms of timeline, I'm not able to provide a timeline, in part because of the contracts that remain with providers for their work in order to return to the authority. Obviously, we are in contact with them daily about those contracts, but they are not in our court. For the contracts that are in our court, I don't think I would be the best suited to provide the timeline to their total execution, and so would encourage folks to attend the budget meeting where Meg Barclay and the finance staff can provide an update on how rapidly those will be executed.
Okay, it's just really hard for me to understand what's going on because what I'm hearing from you is very different from what I'm hearing from the service providers and what they, so eloquently laid out in the letter that they sent recently. So I will definitely attend the budget meeting and try to learn more, but ultimately, I do think it is our responsibility to pay the service providers for the work that they are doing on our behalf. And so I would certainly appreciate continued updates and ideally a commitment to a time by which we're going to sort all these things out. I understand this is not simple. I don't pretend that it is, but I do think it's a core operational function that we need to focus on.
Yeah, I think, so I'll lift up, and I think we can talk about this more at the budget meeting. Like KCRHA did lay out a timeline and had a number of deadlines by which, that were, for turnaround of contracts between RHA and providers in order to meet, frankly, a much earlier deadline of having all contracts executed. A lot of the delays have been in back and forth. And I think that some of that, again, we are looking internally at whether or not like Flux as a system is the source of some of the delays in that back and forth. But my ability to say solidly what a timeline is with things that are not entirely internal to the agency is compromised. And again, I would say, like, I wouldn't want to provide a timeline without having an opportunity to connect with the finance staff. So I don't think it's that we can't give a timeline on the contracts that are with us. It's that I don't want to, say something that that team has not had an opportunity to weigh in on.
Okay, and this the last thing I'll say is that to the extent that you need support from this board, I hope that you ask. If there's additional funding that's required, if there's certain changes to the contracting process, anything really that we can do to accelerate this, I hope that you'll bring that to us, and I'm sure we'll be supportive, because obviously the system doesn't work without the service providers getting paid. So I look forward to continuing to help on this.
Thank you, board members. I see Ms. White.
Yeah, Mark, I heard you talk about the LEC hoteling, and I was wondering if you know the number of people who were exited back to the streets. And the reason why I'm asking this question is because I continue to get text messages from individuals. And so I was just wondering if we knew. And that's the first part of the question. Second part is, and if they were in the hoteling and it doesn't end until June 30th, is it still possible for them to reach out to RHA to get some sort of sheltering?
On point one, no, I don't know. And I don't think I'll ever know. I do not understand. And I don't know that anything other than a forensic audit would reveal the number of people in the hotels. The invoicing data that we do have indicated caused significant concern. And I actually can't speak about it past that. No, I do not know the number of people who exited to the streets, because I'm not sure how many people at the height were in the hotels. And I don't know what programming supports, if any, folks received in order to move forward. I do not know what information people received. There was a lot of conflicting information that it appears to have gone to clients based on what our staff has encountered. All of that, I think, makes it difficult for me to say, like, what the program was and how many people exited before RHA intervention. To the extent that people are reaching out to you and asking about placement, we are not, like, this is not a program that is a permanent feature of the system. And we're not able to accept folks into the temporary locations that we are currently running, particularly because we are running a very aggressive timeline to get the folks who are in those temporary placements to some stable, like, durable placement that will last post June 30th, when we no longer will have the money to pay for the temporary locations. If folks are reaching out to you, depending on where they are, I think the best connection would be to either one of the outreach providers that serves that area, or we can obviously put folks directly in touch with a shelter or, other placement in that jurisdiction if there is one that has vacancies. That's unfortunately the best we can do. I think that, one of the things that I would lift up for the board and for the public is that on the best day, the system does not have across South County 200 plus openings in shelters. Like we just don't have that capacity. And so we are really struggling with generating durable placements for folks, heavily utilizing everything at our disposal: rapid rehousing, family shelter, family system, permanent supportive housing, like anything that we can use. But we continue to have scarcity. So unfortunately, that's the best we can do.
I'm going to call myself for a moment. Are we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I had two questions for you, Mark. The first one, in terms of the timeline, I think between now and next week, if having a sense of kind of when we expect our contracts to be closed would be fantastic. But in addition, when we talk about sort of accountability and transparency, you're sharing today, and keeping us updated, via email, the numbers of where the contracts stand, how many are completed, et cetera, is helpful. Could we publish those things? Can we publish those things publicly? Can we have a dashboard that sort of, describes the sort of core function of what we do as a funder on our website or somewhere else?
Yeah, no, I don't see any reason why not. We have an internal dashboard. I would need to work with the team to clear it up and make sure that it's any information that should not be released publicly is scrubbed. But I look at a dashboard daily on where contracts are. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't put that on the website somewhere. We can work on that.
I think that's helpful both for us and for you and for the public.
Of course.
Thank you. Actually, I'll stop there. I saw that board member Spotted Elk had her hand up.
Hi, I just have a quick question just regarding the Medicaid, if that funding or those, if that has started yet?
Medicaid billing has not started yet. We're in the process of gearing up to do our initial dry runs. And then full billing of actually drawing down money from Medicaid should begin, I believe, late summer, early fall. But I can get a drawdown calendar to you if that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would. I just want to say, because I had a relative that was at one of the motels in Kent, and I thought the Chief Seattle Club was going to help him, but he was able to utilize some sort of funding regarding that support. And I was kind of amazed. And I just, he did get something through Greg's list through being a roommate, sharing a house. So I just wanted to see how that was working out and how long, and then learn more about the resource that he was able to access, and maybe others can access it, and finding sharing housing or community housing, such as the one that he found. But anyway, thank you for the update. I appreciate it.
I would be happy to do a lunch and learn for interested members of the board about Medicaid and entitlement connections. We did do, so one of the things, and I apologize, I'm running over my time a little bit, but I just will note that, I don't know without looking up what was the case with this particular gentleman, but I will say that one of the things we focused on in our initial 15 days was identifying whether or not folks were connected to benefits and connecting them to benefits, in part because of the recognition that we would not have enough space inside the system. And so the importance of those Medicaid and SNAP connections in particular, and disability or SSI connections, if like, those were also indicated, but in particular, the Medicaid and SNAP connections, so that if folks were not able to connect to a stable location, that they would have those benefits turned on to help them navigate towards stability. And so that was a core focus of a lot of our work. And I will just say, I cannot give a big, like, so for 12 days, we convened internally at 7:30 in the morning and then met with the provider teams at 8:30. 45 people joined those calls and were deployed to the sites by about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and often worked until about 8 o'clock at night. And as we have switched into our stability phase, looking to navigate this period between now and June 30th, that same group continues to meet every Monday and every Friday. Monday, establishing operational goals for the week, like how many households are we looking to exit, which households, what resources are needed, and then Friday checking in on what was accomplished, what needs to be done over the weekend in order to tee up a successful launch the following week. And a lot of that work of really flowing through an incident command structure and really being able to move as a system and as a whole team was tremendous to be a part of. And despite the really unfortunate circumstance that led to it, is actually one of the proudest moments of my career. And I have deep gratitude and respect for the leadership that I saw come from people, both inside and outside of KCRHA during that time.
I'd seen board member Ben, I'd seen your hand up. Did you have a comment or question? And then I saw Sarah took herself off.
No, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to ask if Austin would please promote Lamont Green as a panelist, as a second alternate. I won't be able to stay the whole meeting time, and so having him elevated as an alternate will be useful.
As per the AC meeting, the alternates that we have now are Sinead Colston and Marvin Farrell, and then also Zaza, who is on the call. And if the bylaws are to pass, the alternates serve as a slate. So Zaza could then take your votes, if that is okay with you.
Okay, so it's your understanding that Lamont is not cleared as an alternate, because he's
I
been
believe on the
participating.
GC. I believe on the GC, but not on the IB.
Okay,
Austin, I think that he would have to be confirmed by the GC, as the new alternates have to be confirmed by the GC, and
That is
hasn't.
correct.
So probably until that happens, the prior alternates are still in place.
he's served as an alternate up until this time.
Yes,
This is the
he's
first I'm hearing
been
of.
an alternate for me. So I just want to remind people of that. Thank you.
Fair.
Great.
Should I?
Yeah, please go and promote Mr. Green. In this moment, until the GC confirms our new alternate slate, we will continue with our current alternates. What I will ask is that if a current board member steps away, so meaning, Sarah, if you need to step away and provide your vote to someone else, if you could specify whether it is Jaja or Lamont who is going to be taking your place, so there's not confusion. Okay, that'd be appreciated. And then I see Mr. Pastor Carey Anderson with their hand up.
Yes, I would just like to also echo, I have another hard stop at 3 o'clock or shortly after 3 o'clock today as well. And I hope that doesn't cause any problems with any voting that is going to take place today. I'll stay on as long as I can, but I'm committed to another meeting that starts at 3.
We will do our best to move quickly, but and we'll open up to public comment now and just get rolling and move to votes after that. We have one person here in person. Andrew, are you up for doing
Yeah,
that discussion? Okay,
Mhm.
and then we can move to the next virtual.
Yes.
board game.
Andrew, whenever you are ready, you have 1 minute, so begin.
Okay, here goes. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here today to be able to speak with you. My name is Andrew Caston, and I am currently living an unhoused experience. And I came here today just to express my gratitude and thanks for all that you guys are doing. And since I became homeless, I've just been kind of blown away by all of the resources that have been given me and offered freely. I just believe it's an incredibly valuable service that you guys provide, and I wanted to say thanks. Also, while I'm here, if I could advocate quickly for the tent city model. That's where I'm currently living, and it's a really amazing community that has done a lot for me. And I just think as far as value goes, it's a wonderful idea, and I hope that it carries on. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Next up, I have is Anitra Freeman. Anitra, I just allowed you to talk
Yeah.
as soon as you unmute and talk.
Okay.
Begin. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
I'm here from Wheel. Wheel manages 2 low barrier 24-hour shelters for homeless women funded by RHA, a critically needed hotel voucher program for women administered by Angeline's closed mid-February. It thankfully resumed May 5th. We still want to know how it was allowed to lapse and how such lapse will be prevented in the future. When the program lapsed, Wheel shelters were slammed with overflow. Extra women we sheltered for the night with mats on the floor. Even after resumption of the hotel vouchers, we have an average of 25 overflow women a night. We need more shelter, more vouchers, more referral options of any and all kinds. Wheel now has contracts for both shelters. In April, which is earlier than last year, you're learning. The professional standard is January. Until you can meet that standard, do not start learning how to do RFPs.
Anitra, your time.
Thank you.
Your time is
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you so much. Josh Castle. Josh Castle, you are next to talk. I just promote you. If you unmute, you should be good. Your 2 minutes starts when you begin.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Josh Castle. I'm the Community Engagement Director with Lehigh. We're testifying today in hopes of identifying solutions to build a stronger partnership with KCRHA. Similar to other providers, we continue to have concerns about the procedures for contracts and invoicing that has led to significant delays and funds not being released. We're one of the largest service providers in the county and currently hold 18 contracts with the KCRHA totaling $17.7 million. These programs include providing shelter and case management for over 3,000 homeless families, seniors, people with disabilities, individuals, and couples, operating 2 urban rest stop hygiene centers that serve 500 people a day and many other crucial services. It's now the 2nd year where we're getting to the halfway point, and most of our contracts have not been fully executed. We've had to float $3.5 million and have only been reimbursed $1 million. That's unsustainable for us, and we can't even imagine how hard it is for smaller nonprofits. We've been working with the leadership, the KCRHA leadership and staff. They've been very helpful engaging with us. Please encourage them to support
Josh,
making these
time
reforms
is
to
up.
remedy the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Gabriel D. Los Angeles. Gabriel. I just gave you permission to talk. If you just unmute, you should be able to go. Your 1 minute starts as soon as you talk.
1 second. Mic check, 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 mic
Yes,
check. Can
yes,
you hear
we
me?
hear you, Gabriel. Yes, we do.
Excellent. Ready. Chief Seattle Club is hello, my name is Gabriel de Los Angeles, enrolled member of Snoqualmie, and I'm the communications manager for Chief Seattle Club. Chief Seattle Club is angry, but not surprised about the failures of KCRHA. Their administration has failed to create any authority of substance, and it has instead created authoritarian practices that repeat harmful power structures that have oppressed our people since contact. On multiple occasions, KCRHA has tokenized our community with inappropriate requests of KCRHA staff, Native providers, and Native community members. In each of these instances, Native people were asked to carry water for the failure of KCRHA's administration. Meanwhile, KCRHA has touted their success nationwide with Indigenous communities as they have made broad claims about housing people. Those successes are landing squarely with the providers who have housed hundreds of community members despite KCRHA, not because of them. KCRHA is more than 5 months late delivering executed contracts. When KCRHA shares with the media, they say it is because the changes providers have made contracts that are not changes but corrections that our staff have had to repeatedly make as KCRHA continues to fail to include.
Gabriel, your time is up. Thank you. Next up is Shalimar Gonzalez. Shalimar, you were just granted permission to speak. If you just unmute, your 1 minute will start once you begin. If you want to do a quick mic check, that is understandable too.
Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. My name is Shalimar Gonzalez, and I serve as the CEO of Solid Ground. We're testifying today to share our experience with KCRHA's contracting and administrative process, a process that many organizations are struggling with. We appreciate all the hard work of the authority to date and recognize the immense tasks that it has taken on. However, the significant delays in finalizing contracts and releasing payments are leaving many organizations overburdened and at risk of being unable to provide critical services to community members. At Solid Ground, we're expecting to hold 13 contracts with KCRHA this year, totaling over $5.7 million to support a wide range of housing, stability, and homeless prevention services. We're almost halfway through the year and currently only have 5 signed contracts. This represents only 20% of our total 2023 contract funds that we're able to invoice or receive payment for. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalimar. And then the last one I have is Elamo Musa. Elamo, you've been given permission to talk. If you unmute, your 1 minute will begin once you begin talking.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, hey everyone. Thank you for today. My name is Elmo Musa. I am new with We Heart Seattle. I'm just here in the space and I'm trying to learn more about what's going on and what work we're doing. And so I'm hoping to be added to the monthly outreach meeting, if that's possible. Aside from that, I'm just glad to be here and it's nice to meet you all.
Thank you for your time. Chair, seeing no other hands, nor anyone here in the city of Shoreline other than Andrew, I guess that concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you, Austin, and thank you to everyone who provided feedback. Austin, do we have our new feedback email address available yet?
Right now, we will just still be taking it from my email. I will be doing that. We are still working on security parameters within our data team and stuff like that. So I will drop my email in chat. It's also on the website, just so we can do that. Sorry for the delay to the public. We just want to make sure that we get it right and for safety of everybody in this digital world.
So to clarify, what I mean is our board clerk, Austin, is going to put his email address into the chat for the public, for both the people who commented and others. If you send public comment to us, we'll make sure that every board member receives that, and I will commit to making sure that I read through everyone carefully as well. And CEO Jones, if we can follow up on some of the concerns raised during public comment post meeting, would be appreciated. So thank you, CEO Jones. Moving on to our any comments from the board, questions? Okay. We're gonna move on to our master lease agreement discussion and vote. We'll have a small presentation by Jeff Sims on resolution 2023-06. And we'll hold a vote to allow KCRJ to sign a master lease providing housing to people experiencing homelessness. Jeff.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Jeff Sims. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the Senior Director for Policy here at KCRHA. I'm going to go as briefly as possible, so I know that the board has a lot of items on its agenda. As you saw in the packet, there is a resolution for the board to consider today. It's to allow RHA to enter into a lease agreement with ETI3 LLC. We first talked about the investment that this lease is related to back in March as part of our overall right-of-way initiative. It's part of what the governor's office, or what the state has funded as part of the governor's right-of-way initiative. This is the master leased units that we talked about at that time. And what you see on screen here is just some summary of what is the materials that you received last time and in your packet this time. As we've talked about before, we're doing this because creating housing options, not just temporary locations, is actually the way you end someone's homelessness. And we are creating that throughput by setting up master leased and other permanent units as part of this right-of-way initiative, so that people that are no longer on right-of-way encampments are housed, not just stagnating in shelter. This is similar to other lines of business that we have where we will lease units, so we're not engaging in capital work. Instead, we are, just like with rapid rehousing or other places, entering into lease agreements. In this case, we're setting them up to be longer term, so that this will be providing permanent housing. And there's also a service provider that is associated with these units. For details on the lease, as you can see, it's actually less than $84,000 per month. The authorization you're giving is for us to enter into that. It'd be serving approximately 56 people. So if you do the math, that's actually works out well for us in terms of what fair market rents are for that size of for those types of units. The initial term of this lease would be 3 years. We have 2 renewal options that would extend to about 10 years in total. And we obviously could renegotiate that for longer. Our funding from the state is ongoing. We have the money to do this in a long-term way. And we anticipate that these are actually permanent housing options, just not 10 years just as the initial term that we're entering into, assuming we did all the renewals. This lease we are approaching as a triple net lease, which, as many of our board members know, is a pretty orthodox approach for this. It is a new construction building, which is exciting. It's in excellent shape for the people that will be getting to enter into their new homes. And then just briefly, resolution before you, it's 2023-06. It notes that per our interlocal agreement that created RHA, the implementation board must authorize us moving forward, either in general or particular terms, with a lease. So that's what we're seeking your approval for today. It will authorize revising, finalizing, and executing that lease. There was one minor issue that I believe has now been resolved, so that we should be able to almost immediately enter into that lease. And this resolution that you're passing would be effective immediately. So we could take those actions and begin creating that throughput that we so desperately want to create to put people in their final housing. If there's any questions from the board, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you both for the presentation now and for having been available for board member questions prior. I see questions first from board member Chelmnack and then Moritz.
This is an exciting way to move forward to provide housing options for those, especially some of those coming out of the right-of-way program. I would be interested, however, in knowing whether it's the city of Seattle or any suburban location. We have the right to do these leases. People have the absolute right to live there. But it can be a surprise to residents, to businesses, and to others that a building that's being built or is there is now going to be used for this purpose. I am just kind of wondering what sort of outreach KCRHA would provide. There are, anywhere you go, you're going to find schools, you're going to find public facilities, you're going to find parks, you're going to find lots of different things and businesses. And how we might be able to work to maybe coalesce a neighborhood to be in favor of this type of housing, which I think is critical and helpful, versus showing up one day and having it become a reality. So I'm curious if there's any outreach and if thoughts that are going on, and if not, I would love to hear about that.
Yeah, thank you for your question. The process here is, as you noted, different than when we cite a shelter or something like that, because we're choosing to lease a residential unit. So all of the siting, zoning, any considerations that normally we would need to go through those processes would not be necessary here. We are the approach, as I mentioned, also relies on an operator that is present to be on site and continue to, should concerns like that arise, would be able to respond to operations and engage with the community on that. Our intention, for example, I said to you, the board when I was here in March, there's not awareness of where many of the hotels that PDA is operating right now, where they are utilizing rooms, because there's been very focused and intentional engagement with clients proactively and in supporting their needs in an ongoing way, so that there's not issues with the surrounding community. And I think that our goal is for that same type of situation here.
Okay, well, I would be interested in knowing what type of outreach there might be around this. Having said that, I just think it makes for a better experience, even though you're going to have some public who are not going to like it. I think it makes a better experience overall. And if you can figure out ways to work together with the surrounding neighborhood, it's just so much better than just sort of dropping in and beginning service. And I think a key element of this in this case is that we will have 24/7 support on site, and that there will be access to services that individuals need. And that provides a real opportunity for people to grow through this experience and perhaps move into permanent housing.
Actually, yeah. So, and I didn't respond to your first question, which is where is the building? It is in Seattle. It's in West Seattle. So I apologize for that. Actually, and then you also raised what I think is that we had not considered to this point, but I think would be a good consideration. When we place anything that is a tiny home village or an RV safe lot, the siting and zoning legislation in Seattle requires that we set up a community advisory council, and you referred to that or alluded to something along those lines. We had not actually considered doing something like that, but I think that's an intriguing thing for us to add here as a way of mitigating any concerns and making sure we are doing that engagement that you're talking about. So thank you for raising that. I'll have to follow up separately about that, but I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah, and I just want to make it really clear, we don't have to go through any zoning or land use or anything. People are free to live where they want. But I think, again, just introducing ourselves to the neighborhood is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Before we move to Board Member Mertz's question, I want to note that Board Member McHenry has joined us. And good to see you, Gordon. And then Board Member Sarah Rankin had to step away and has designated alternate Joshua Floyd in her place.
Clerk recognizes.
Thank you. Ben?
Thanks. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to say thank you for both the leadership in securing this property, as well as in taking the time to explain it to me fully, Jeff. This is very squarely in my area of expertise, and I do think that these kinds of master leases are by far the most efficient way for us to create very high quality homes at a very affordable price for our constituents. And I hope that we'll be able to do many more like this in the future. And as such, I'll just build on what John was saying, is that I think we do need to look to really build what I think in my industry would be called an asset management function, about how do we actually make sure that we're not the ones operating the building, a service provider is, but there are certain requirements that we should be putting upon service providers, certain playbooks that we should define, including what John is saying around outreach to the community. And if we do a really great job at asset managing these, we will have the right to do many more, and we'll be able to bring more people into high quality housing who need it desperately. So I think that I support this 100%. I look forward to voting on this, but I do think there's more work to be done around how do we actually manage and administer these and build them into a at-scale program.
Thank you, Ben. Other comments or questions from the board? Further discussion? John, I see your hand up. I'm not sure if that's from the prior question or not.
I apologize. Still bad Zoom habits.
Also want to acknowledge board member Paula Carvalho has joined us. Board clerk.
Clerk recognizes.
Thank you. Just in time for some votes.
Just in time.
So is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-06?
I'd like to
This
make
is-
that motion. Go ahead.
This is Kerry Anderson, and I so move.
Right. Right. We have a motion and a second. Thank you, Mr. Carey and Board Member Briggs. Any further discussion? Okay, Austin, as board clerk, would you please take roll?
Absolutely. Member Anderson,
Yes.
member Caminos,
Aye.
member Carvalho. Carvalho. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get
Yes.
it, Paula. I'm sorry.
All good, Austin. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Member Shelmanag,
Aye.
member Merritt's,
Aye.
member Spotted Elk,
Aye.
member Patno,
Aye.
member Brandon,
Aye.
member McHenry,
Aye.
Chair Reddy,
Aye.
alternate Floyd,
Aye.
and member Ross.
Aye.
With that, the resolution 2023-06 has passed.
Right. You know, I had a request to try to move our votes a little bit earlier. We may be able to at least get the bylaws section in. Is there a motion to move our agenda items, so our bylaws discussion and vote prior to our 5-year plan update?
I'll make that motion, Sima. Thank you.
Okay, is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to that change? Okay. All right. Board clerk, if we are going to, just want you to note, we are going to move to discussion of bylaws and vote, and then see where we stand there.
Recognize.
Thank you. So for the public, our 5-year plan update will be a little bit later on or further on. So what I'll ask for is a motion to approve and then discussion. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2023-01? This is passage of bylaws for the implementation board.
Can I clarify if the motion to approve is for them as a complete packet or is it one by one?
It says a complete packet. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. It's for the, it's the resolution 2023-01 with the attached bylaws to it. It is not the supplemental interpretation document. It is just the text that is attached to 2023-01.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
The reason I ask is there's concerns with a few of them that might, but it's not to say that they're all without question. So it might be administratively easier to approve them by articles or sections, not that granular, but by articles, because then you could pass some of the bylaws. But there's some that I think have questions.
Chair, you still need a motion to be able to even allow for amendments. Is that correct in terms of procedure? Is that right?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So perhaps I'll just do a general motion to it. I know there's also one in the chat that Sarah raised, both in the chat and also by email yesterday for the group, but I'll do that. I will do a so moved to your welcome of that motion.
All right. Any discussion? on this motion? Christopher?
There's two parts that I'd have a question about. One of them is on Article 3, Section 3, Section 3, 2.0. And it is in Part A, it is the last sentence in the first paragraph. Preference for a co-chair position shall be given to members with lived experience seats. The intent is to have a member with lived experience serve as a co-chair for the board. While I completely understand and appreciate that, I'm curious why this is being added in. If in a 13-member board, there's 3 seats already with LEC members being placed, why is that being put into the document, in the bylaws? If I'll leave it there. That's an open-ended question. I don't know if anyone can answer that.
Dave?
Yeah, sorry, as one of the co-chairs, when we were founded as an implementation board in 2020, I believe this inaugural board had discussed the values of wanting to ensure that at least one of the co-chairs was a member of the Lived Experience Coalition, or a person with lived experience. Let me correct that. In that light, I also have an open question, I mean, with Chris's question as well, of whether or not that's also reflected in the governing committee bylaws. I don't know the answer of that to that or not, but I think it's while we've carried that value for the past almost 3 years as an implementation board, this, in some cases, my understanding, the motivation of it is to put it in writing, unless other board members have thoughts or understanding beyond what I just shared. And under the guise of also the theory of change, which also the inaugural co-chair of Lived Experience, Harold Oldham, carried and spoke to.
I'll just share that I would support keeping that language in, and you know, when Harold Odom was my co-chair, frankly, I miss having him here. Like having his perspective and viewpoint and experience was really important, frankly. And I think having that lived experience in the co-chair seat is a benefit to this board as a whole, and speaks to our theory of change. So, that may have just been Harold being amazing. So.
I don't disagree with the vote. I completely agree with all of that. The chair position carries a lot of work. It is a heavy, laborious, as you could attest to, in your current state. And so I'm just asking if the most qualified person, it should be the most qualified that has the bandwidth to be able to pick it up, because it is a heavy pro bono position. That was, and having close to a third of the board already consisting of LEC members. I'm not questioning the rationale, I'm questioning if it needs to be stated.
Thank you, Christopher.
May I?
Please.
And then Jaja Floyd, please, after John.
Yes, so I just want to echo what both Simha and Nate have said, that the discussion at the time where we selected our first co-chairs was that one of the co-chairs should be a person who has lived experience of homelessness. That does not limit it to members who are appointed by or appointed through the process of the Lived Experience Coalition. So I know from the discussions that we have other members on the board who have that experience,
right,
but they're not appointees of the Lived Experience Coalition. And I would very much support moving ahead with that language within here as having that balance and being true to a agency that is grounded in individuals with lived experience.
Appreciate that perspective. Thank you.
I see Jaja next, and then
Yes, I too agree with Simha and what Harold has brought forth. I also would like to say that what I'm hearing is an implication that those people living with the Lived Experience Coalition may not be qualified to take that chair. And I just want to bring it to people's attention that the Lived Experience Coalition is made up of many people from a diverse walk of life. And myself, I sit as co-chair on public health and have been doing it for 4 years. So I just want to make sure that I'm not swallowing what I believe. And I don't think it was any, malice, but it's just that it's just not going down well. And I
Okay.
just want to appreciate the fact that we are the Lived Experience Coalition in this room. And please, please respect that we're here. And it sounds like we're talking about something or around something instead of in inclusion and partnership. And that's how we get the work done. So I want to say that.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. I hear you loud and clear. Certainly not what was being, there was no implied, but I appreciate that.
And Juanita, I think I had seen your hand for a moment as well.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. I just really appreciate everyone's good words about having an individual lived experience as co-chair. It's just a beautiful opportunity. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
My
Yes.
cell phone's been having issues, so I apologize. I just want to make sure, and I just agree with everyone regarding that, being able to, because that's what it's all about, and it was like that from the beginning. Also, Erin did a process for the racial equity, and we must not forget her work and being able to bring liberation to these systems that in the past, we don't want to do things the same old ways, and we're doing a new thing now. And that's how, the KCRHA came into being, because I don't think they would have did it without us. I mean, truly, honestly, without the voices of the people being here at the table and part of this process that we all learn and grow together and really learn from one another and give people the opportunity to learn and be able to use their voice and their expertise and in community organizing. It's just been a wonderful transformation process for me. I never, ever in my whole life thought I would ever have the opportunity to be a part of this process and the decision making and being able to use my voice, my experience, my lived experience as a DV survivor, Indigenous person, a mother, being homeless and having to flee domestic violence, and also fleeing the victimization of systemic racism. And those are things that are very real, and we're here to protect people's rights and having the right to housing, racial justice, housing justice. And we know that there's a whole wide range of social justices, and the key word is justice, right? And so I just want to be great. I'm grateful for the training and using the power analysis that we were taught, and there's always more room to grow. And being able to partner, true partnership is listening to one another and also being engaged with each other in our relationship building, and being able to best serve our relatives that are unsheltered and ending homelessness. And I believe that this is a wonderful year that we're going to be able to do all those things together and really create unity. We're trying to build walls and keep people out, like Jaja said. We're being inclusive. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much. Raise my hands up to all of you, your ancestors on tribal Coast Salish territory, and being able to do this work. This work is sacred, and this is a part of that process. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Juanita.
Juanita. I see Akeisha next.
Just back off what I wanted to was talking about too, as far as being inclusive and partnerships, and I also want to just mention and uplift the youth homeless that don't feel like they have that space or capacity or even that knowledge, even knowing that they are lived expertise, because we say it, to be able to pass that knowledge down and also embody and show them actively in modeling that, saying that, hey, I too have been in your spot. Look what I'm doing now. Look what my voice is able to do because of my lived expertise. We have a whole body of youth that are watching us, and instead of going down a certain path and feeling like they are less than and devalued, or they have to turn to this, they can say, you know what, even as a youth, I don't have to wait till 30, 40, 50 to be able to sit on a board or vote in favor of myself and things that I went through and traumas I went through. I can use my trauma and my past, my circumstances to catapult me into speaking at tables that make decisions for me. So I just also want to raise that we are modeling that by being on these tables and being in those positions to continue to show up and speak out and speak with integrity about, things we've been through with intentions of changing, things and systems that are out there that are meant to do us harm. So I just wanted to raise that. It is very important for us to continue to be in these spots and raise the roof and shut down and dismantle things that are not that are doing us harm, because we have young people watching us. We have to continue to be heard and be in these spaces and make positive changes. So thank you guys again for allowing me to be here and use my voice and my other colleagues and stuff, because I know we have a lot of young people watching us. Thank you.
Thank you, Akeisha. I see Ben.
Thanks. I'm gonna make a slight shift in focus, but thank you, Juanita and Akeisha, for those comments and for continuing to tirelessly keep us focused on the task at hand. Is it appropriate to make a motion to make an amendment now? I'm referring to what Sarah had left in the chat before she left.
Yes, now would be the time after it was motioned on the floor by Caminos and McHenry Jr. So yes, now would be the time for
Just remember, Ross, believe it, you may have had another item or two, if I recall right, at the start of your remarks there before we get.
Go ahead, Oso.
The second one is not as important, but I do appreciate, I want to thank Akeisha, Jaja, and Juanita for all of their thoughts. And I really, really appreciate that time to learn in public and get more perspective. And Nate, for your additional comments on some of the historical perspective. So thank you. That really helped quite a bit.
And Christopher, did you have other items you wanted to bring up for discussion? Or
The other one is very, very small, and it was an item. There is the constitution of allowing in also in number 3, section 3, it was for the bylaw number 5 that allows for a committee of 1 or more. And I just, as a matter of practicality, wonder if you can have a committee of 1. And if that is in the best interest, that it should be a minimum of 2. And I would ask, I realize that a board of 13 individuals, it may be hard to always be able to get, but if we're having a committee, it says 1 or more, and technically that means anybody could break off and say, I'm a committee now. I'm wondering, I would recommend that it be changed to 2.
Okay, so it sounds like one potential amendment is to actually, board clerk, if you can phrase it for us in the right section, etc. Okay.
Sorry, finding it right now.
Section 05.
Sure.
Section Article 3, Section 05.
Yep.
Oh, yes. So it's currently, it does say the implementation board may by resolution establish other committees consisting of one or more implementation board members to advise the implementation board. So if I'm hearing you correctly, the amendment that you want would be to change the one in that sentence to two. Then yes, we will have a motion and a second on amendment A to the resolution 2023-001.
And Austin, you may be able to answer this, but also Nate or John. Do we make a decision on each amendment as we go before moving on to discussion of other amendments?
Generally speaking, oh, go ahead.
As I'd say, I don't know historically, so if one of you would like to speak on that, that'd be great.
John?
So you can kind of do it both ways, but you need to take a single vote on each recommendation. You can have a discussion of all of them, but then you need to take a single vote on each one. You can't, it's called log rolling.
Gotcha. All right, thank you, John. Why don't we plan on that then? Let's have our discussion of all potential amendments. Currently, the amendment A we have is transitioning of a minimum committee size from 1 to 2. And then I believe, Ben, you had an amendment that you were interested in bringing up. And yeah, Ben, whenever you feel ready, if you want to just share a little bit about your thoughts, we'll have the votes at the end for all the amendments.
Sure. So this is something that was raised by Sarah before she left via email and chat. And I agree with it, so I'd like to advance that on her behalf. The specific issue is that the bylaws refer to the Coalition of Lived Experience as a capitalized term, and we believe that should be the Lived Experience Coalition as a capitalized term. The Coalition of Lived Experience is, we believe, an error in phrasing that originated in the ILA and was carried over into this draft of the bylaws. But given that we're adopting this now, we may as well correct that error. And just for a little bit of context, the Lived Experience Coalition, for those who don't know, is a specific group that was formed around the same time that the RHA itself was being formed. It was an advocacy group that is a pretty broad tent of folks who have experienced lived experience and some who have close allies of people with lived experience. And the bylaws gives it a very small formal role, that is to provide recommendations to the advisory committee about whom the advisory committee should appoint to the IB and the GC. So the Lived Experience Coalition does not itself make those appointments, rather the advisory committee does, but the Lived Experience has the right to make the recommendations. And I believe that so far all the people who have been recommended and appointed have in fact been lived experience members, but that is not what the bylaws requires. It really just is a recognition of the work that the Lived Experience Coalition did in the formation of the RHA and keeps them involved in that particular manner.
Thank you, Ben. So the amendment you're proposing is a transition from Coalition on Lived Experience to Lived Experience Coalition in that section.
Correct.
I see Gordon's hand next.
Ben, did you finish with what you wanted to convey?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, great. I'm tracking, I saw Sarah's note and I'm hearing what Ben summarized. And I think there may be a little tension I want to identify, which is the intent all along was to make sure that folks with lived experience are designed into all aspects of the Regional Homeless Authority as a new entity. So I think that's very apropos and needed, and we benefit from that. My concern is that if I understand it correctly, the Lived Experience Coalition or the Coalition of Lived Experience is an entity, collaborative, but there are people who have lived experience who may not be participating in the Lived Experience Coalition or the Coalition of Lived Experience. So if my understanding is correct, I would hesitate to accept the suggested amendment by Sarah and Ben, because I wouldn't want us to inadvertently limit who would be eligible is not the right word, but who would fit under defined term of a person with lived experience. I'm not probably expressing myself as well as I'd like. I'm trying to say is that I 101% on the concept of those who attest to have lived experience are prioritized across and within the regional authority. But if we limit it to one structure or organization or collaboration, would that be exclusive? Would that exclude folks? So that's my concern, and would welcome some clarification on that point. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Gordon. I'm going to recognize myself and then Jaja. I think I'm realizing in this moment, why do we have this at all? Like, why do we have a section on appointments? The alternate piece we certainly need to address, but we don't appoint members to our own board. Like, that is specified by the ILA, the governing committee, the advisory committee. Those do that for us, right? Why is it that we have any language at all regarding appointments within our own bylaws if we can't appoint ourselves? That's an open question. I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that.
Tim, I agree with you. I think that these bylaws, I think we should preface this by mentioning that these bylaws have been in this draft form for many, many months since before I joined the board. And there is quite a lot in them that I think is not needed, and quite a lot of stuff that I think is missing. But I think that having something in place is really critical, and I would propose that we adopt these and then amend them as needed down the road. With the exception of any kind of minor typographical issues that we find, such as the Lived Experience Coalition versus the Coalition of Lived Experience.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that comment. I see Jaja and then Lamont.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, first of all, the Lived Experience Coalition is not a entity all to itself. It consists of people from all walks of life with lived experience, mutual aid people who just help people with no name, no title, and just want to be a part of a coalition of doing the same like-minded work, right? And so what I believe Sarah was trying to point out is in the ILA, there may have been a misrepresentation, because the ILA with the lived experience and definitely says Lived Experience Coalition. This part of the bylaws is stating that, just from what I read and understand from Sarah, is that it's saying, yeah, well, let's correct the part where it says Coalition of Lived Experience and change it to be what it's supposed to, what its intent, what we believe the intent was, the Lived Experience Coalition, and it was just a typo, and leave lived experience for the overall broad general thought, because that's also in there. So there's still going to be lived experience, but there's specifics to the partnership, to the ILA, that brings about the Lived Experience Coalition being noted. And she was just saying, well, hey, if it's already there, then let's keep it consistent across the board, is my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaja. Lamont?
No, thank you, Jaja, for bringing that up, and also Gordon for bringing up that point, because it is really important. The Coalition of Lived Experience versus Lived Experience Coalition, that part is kind of a mistake, like not a grammatical mistake, but the way that they put the name, because as you will note in the ILA, it also makes to representation to other groups of people with lived experience as well. So it still keeps it open. So this would just be correcting the name of the Lived Experience Coalition. And then the other piece that we wanted to note too, that within the Lived Experience Coalition, you have members from many different like lived experience groups. Like we have members from Share Wheel, from Healthcare for the Homeless Advisory Council, LEAD, and other groups, right? So it's more of a jurisdiction or a constituency of people with lived experience. And you don't have to be a Lived Experience Coalition member to be in these seats. And the COC Advisory Board and the Lived Experience Coalition worked out an agreement, and these future recruitment processes, where there'll be a fully transparent recruitment process, and they will interview people will be able to give speeches and so forth, and voting at general coalition meetings, and having the COC board participate in that. So it's very broad and very open. And in our bylaws, in the LEC bylaws, the co-chairs of the COC advisory board automatically have seats on the LEC leadership team. So we try to have all of these mechanisms to ensure transparent accountability. The Friday General Coalition meetings are completely open, and people with lived experience can vote whether they're a coalition member or not. And so we're always constantly refining and growing so that we can have an accountable body of people with lived experience, because a part that we didn't want to happen is where in the past, right, where you would have poster children of lived experience that would be tokenized and sitting on these different government advisory boards, and we're not connected to a constituency or body, but yet we're having a great impact on what they were saying on those different boards. So thank you.
I see John, and then I'm going to call on myself.
I clicked on the wrong button. I don't have my hand raised, excuse me.
I think the bylaws is written like, it's changing that just to, which shall consider recommendations from the coalition, currently it's written as, which shall consider recommendations from the Coalition of Lived Experience or other groups representing individuals with lived experience of homelessness. I'm fine with, like, from my perspective, I'm fine with changing the Coalition of Lived Experience, which is capitalized, into Lived Experience Coalition. I think because the second section also notes that other groups or other people with lived experience can be considered as well. Unless I'm misinterpreting that. So
actually, may I ask a question?
Oh, John.
So what I want to understand is, this is solely about the process of how members who fill lived experienced seats on this body are nominated and approved. Is that correct?
That's correct. And in this case, the particular amendment being proposed is just changing the words coalition of lived experience, which is designated all capitals, specifying a particular organization, to lived experience coalition, which, because there is no coalition of lived experience as an entity. Nate?
I just appreciate the dialogue we've had amongst ourselves as board members here.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of discussion and coordination in terms of the crafting of this bylaws that's been facilitated by our staff and legal counsel. And so I just want to make sure, and in the areas of concern that have been raised about that too, that we also hear that aspect of it as well before we move on to any other additional amendments. And so whether it's Mark, our board clerk, Austin, Aaron, and the attendee list, others in terms of the intent of why it's been crafted this way. I just read through our governing committee bylaws from 2021, comparing the language of where we are and how we're different here. I'm just curious in terms of the way it's phrased this way from the staff's perspective and the way that they guided us to this point.
Austin, do you have anything that you would say before I speak?
Just one little thing. I know the language that's been changed, as you guys have called out, it was the direct language in the ILA. That was just what we did on that front. And our legal counsel has had in the last month about 3 reviews of the bylaws in total. So that is just the other thing I would like to note. CEO Mark Jones, you want to take it away?
Thanks. Yeah, so the language here echoes the ILA. And I think that the staff's perspective was consistency. And to board member Maritz's perspective, if there are things here that like need to be amended, or if there's subsequent discussion that folks would like to have, nothing here bars the Lived Experience Coalition from being inside process. Nothing here is exclusionary. As a party to the framing of the ILA and some of the language there, our goal was to be expansive and inclusive and ensure that all folks in the county who had lived experience of homelessness, regardless of affiliation, felt comfortable participating in a process to come sit on this body or other bodies that the authority convenes. So that's the intention here. I don't think, from my perspective, that the while I understand what member Rankin has raised, I don't think that the work here or the language here that again is the same language as in the ILA is exclusionary or like undercuts the Lived Experience Coalition having a role. I think that they can continue to have a role, as can other organizations that represent folks with lived experience. And so my recommendation as staff, particularly given time, would be to address any other issues that you have and to move on the bylaws as a item, because I think there are some other things that y'all want to hear about today.
Absolutely. We have 2 amendments sort of on the table. Amendment A to change from 1 to 2 the minimum size of the committee. Amendment B to change the term coalition on lived experience to lived experience coalition in whatever section that is. I can't recall right off the top of my head in here. Is there any further discussion about either of those amendments before we, I think, would vote on each of these amendments and then vote on the full package? Right. Hearing no desire for further discussion, I'm going to ask for I believe it's a roll call vote for each of the, for Amendment A, and then Amendment B, and then
It could be voice vote if you wish.
okay, just do it.
Yeah. 1 second, I'm writing down the names real quick. Awesome. So Amendment A, which will be changing section 3.05 in the IB bylaws, changing the language from 1 to 2 in regards to the number of members on the committee. For A, Anderson.
No longer with this. I mean, let me rephrase that. He's not present.
He's not present. Caminos.
Aye, yes.
Let me actually have those panelists up so I know who it is. Carvalho.
Yes.
Shelmanack.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Spotted Up. Spotted Up. You are muted. I will come back.
Sorry.
Oh, never mind. Hello.
Yeah, I'm multitasking. Can you just move on to the next one? I'll come back.
Yeah,
Sure.
I come back.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No worries. McHenry Jr.
Aye, in favor.
Pat now.
Nay.
Brandon.
Can you come back to me, if you please?
Yep. Ready?
Aye.
Floyd. Floyd.
Sorry, Austin.
Oh, no worries.
I'm on a phone and I'm trying to slide things. My computer died. Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Spotted Elk,
Yes.
and Brandon.
Aye.
Awesome. Amendment A is passed.
I think we'll need to mention something in the chat.
Oh, sorry, I just put, my phone's plugged in. That's why I don't want it to die.
Gotcha. Thanks, Boo. All right, moving on to Amendment B. This is changing coalition lived experience to lived experience coalition. Just the language. Clerk, if you could please take a vote.
Yes, and just so the record is shown, this will be in section 2.01 of the IB bylaws.
And Austin, can you just for my friend Sarah, the attorney, can you just specify that the amendment will keep the terms capitalized, please?
Yes.
Yes, it will keep the terms capitalized, yes.
So we've had a discussion about this, but do we? You know what? I'll let it go. I'll just take my vote. I just believe we should be consistent with the ILA.
So first up is Member Caminos,
No.
Carvalho,
No.
Shelmanack,
No.
Merritt's,
Yes.
Spotted Elk,
Yes. Yes.
Hurd, McHenry,
No.
Patno,
Nay.
Brandon,
Yes.
Ready,
Aye.
Floyd,
Yes.
and Member Ross.
No.
Let me tally. The tally is 5 yeas to 6 noes. The amendment B failed.
And we certainly can come back to amendments in the future as well, down the road. So now I would like us to, unless there's further discussion, move on to the whether there a vote on the approval of resolution 2023-06. I believe we already have a motion and a second on that, right?
This would be 01, but yes.
Oh, sorry, 01, my apologies. Thank you.
Awesome.
Inclusive of amendment A, changing minimum committee size. Board clerk, if you could.
Absolutely. Caminos,
Aye.
Carvalho, Carvalho, I will come back. Shelmanack,
Aye.
Merritt's,
Aye.
Spotted Elk, Spotted Elk,
I'm sorry, can you come back to me?
Yeah. McHenry Jr.,
Aye.
Patno,
Aye.
Brandon,
Aye.
Chair Ready,
Aye.
Floyd,
Aye.
and Member Ross.
Aye.
Carvalho
Sorry, yes.
and Spotted Elk. Spotted Elk,
I'm sorry about that. Yes.
awesome, motion passes, or resolution 2023-01 passes with 11 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions.
All right. Thank you, everybody. To the public, thank you for bearing with us as we went through sort of the dry parts of getting bylaws passed. we need to discuss our, I believe we're due for both after elections and 5-year plan discussion. Is there anybody who needs to leave early for a vote or before that would prompt us to move the officer elections earlier?
I will have to hop off soon. So anything that like requires a vote, I'd appreciate us doing it now, if possible.
Okay. So we're due to hold the officer elections then, and because I would be running for one of CO Dones, I see your hand.
Thank you, Chair. I believe there's been some communication about this already, but I wanted to offer that had a discussion with County Council today, who reached out and expressed some concern about the vacancy in their representation because of the departure of Member Ramos, and requested kindly if the board would consider moving the officer elections to later after they have filled that seat. They also apologized and said that they would move with expediency to fill that seat, but wanted the board to consider that request. So.
I see Nate. Mark, when is the earliest that, well, let me just go to Nate. Sorry, I shouldn't jump.
Yeah, do we happen to know, I know this is probably super late notice, and we might not have heard too much communication from King County Council in this regard, but the timing of that, we've had to postpone our elections 3 times, I think, so far at the start of this year. Any understanding at the current moment, and obviously if not, we can learn more soon here in the days ahead of when they might be able to make that decision.
Earliest they would be able would be 6/1, I believe, is my understanding, but because that's when the governing committee will convene next. And so if we are able to convene a nominating committee, work with the council and get an individual confirmed, then they could be confirmed as early as 6/1. If not, it would either be at the next special meeting, or at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the governing committee, or at a special meeting if they agreed to take that up for the sole purpose of that vote, which they may be willing to. But that is the earliest. I would also
sorry, go ahead.
I would also ask if Board Member Cholmanek, as the remaining County Council representative, has anything to add. But
sure, so I recognize the importance that the King County Council plays in this system. The county itself is one of the major funders. Councilmember McDermott is just a really strong proponent of getting homelessness in our community solved. And I think waiting a short period of time to be able to have the vote on the leadership going forward, that request makes sense. I also want to say that we can't always wait for something to be completely filled. We as a body need to move forward, so we're going to have vacancies in the future. So we need to kind of work our way around that. I would just point out that, when I was asked to serve, it was the thought was there would be 6 to 9 meetings a year. I've had 9 meetings in the last 6 weeks at least. And so what we're finding is that being on this board entails a lot more work. And one thing that I'm very happy to have seen in some of the people who have wanting to put their names forward for leadership positions is we have some really strong leaders who have been serving and those who want to serve. So I think waiting preferably a short period of time would be good. I hope that helps, CEO Dones.
Thank you. It does.
I see Member Spotted Elk.
I was just going to say, I agree with John Chalmanek. I think to wait for them, and it's only a short period of time just because of the decision making and making it fair. And to work together in unification is a goal of this work. And I don't think that's too much of an ask. Since we waited this long for the other seats, and I think it's fair to be patient. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Juanita. I see Member Mertz.
A lot of this, I wasn't around for the last elections. Are we required by law to have annual elections? And is there anything in the ILA or the bylaws about when we should have our elections?
I think the bylaws, I don't know about I can't remember the ILA, but the bylaws do ask, have in them annual officer elections, right?
The term is 1 year long. It doesn't specify an election day.
I think it does allow for until the seat is filled, right?
Yes.
So you're right, like we are long past when we should have been done. So it's like a year and a half now. Or it would be a full year and a half the next month. So
was the request to delay these made in writing? Has anybody seen that? It seems a little odd to me, to be honest.
I'm sorry, is the question, was there an ask in writing from the council?
Yeah, and has anybody seen it other than Mark?
That's interesting. I spoke with Councilmember Cholmanek. I'm sorry, Cholmanek. Sorry. I'm used to your prior title. I spoke with Councilmember McDermott.
I'm originally from West Seattle, if that helps.
Other thoughts? So really, it sounds like the question is being raised is whether to delay officer elections one more time to another month to June.
Is that a motion to change the agenda?
Yeah, I guess that would be a motion to change the agenda and move officer elections to, do we have a motion to move officer elections?
I will, since we do need to make a motion to change the agenda based on the absence of a King County representative and the issue that they will fill it quickly, I would ask that we delay until we get the King County representative appointed.
A second.
So sorry, John, and that's going to be a long time, right? Because the council has to deliberate, and then they have to appoint somebody through a vote of the council. So we have to get on the council agenda, and then we have to get the GC to meet, which meets once a quarter. Are we really comfortable delaying the officer elections indefinitely in that way?
Well, that was the motion. You can certainly, I would accept what I would consider a friendly amendment. But Mark, did I hear you say that they were trying to move ahead quickly?
Yeah, so when I spoke with Councilmember McDermott, again, he did offer his apologies and say that he would work with, all haste to get confirmed as rapidly as possible. I can, of course, work with his office and Councilmember Balducci's office. I think, we have some capacity now, particularly with Austin, that we did not have previously to get things done expeditiously.
I'll say at this point, Pastor Carey is off as well. But
Can I do this? Can I do this? I'm sorry. I'm going to change my motion, which is to delay the vote from today to a future meeting. That gives us the opportunity to reschedule.
I would like to be more specific, so I may amend your motion or can propose my own as you like, but I think that we should agree to delay it to the June meeting and ask for a request in writing from the council. And if we don't get such a request, that we have that vote in June. And if we need to delay it beyond that, that they give us a specific time frame by which they can make the nominee.
Gotcha.
So I don't think we had a second to my amendment, but I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, so just to reiterate the idea, so moving the officer elections to June specifically, and asking the city council, county council to move forward with haste. And we will plan on having the officer elections in June, essentially regardless. Is that, maybe I'm not paraphrasing correctly then.
I don't think there's any way that they'll have their nominee seated by June in 20 days.
Okay.
So if we need to move it beyond that, I think that may be possible, but I'd like to know when it is. And similarly, I think this is very unusual that there was a phone call to one person that we're now, basically ignoring the law because of.
I'm sorry, what law?
The law requiring us to have annual elections for officers.
We will have to discuss that with legal. I'm unaware of that law.
That was the first question that I asked about the ILA.
All right, so in this moment, we have a motion to, Ben, actually, can you just phrase your motion for us?
Yes, I'd like to move to delay the officer elections to June and to ask for a written request from the county council about the specific timeline that they would like us to delay. And if such a request is not forthcoming, that we move forward in June with the officer elections.
Okay. We have a second for that? Gordon?
A second.
Sorry, okay, there's a second now, but Gordon, if you'd like discussion.
I'm just tracking Ben's motion and wondering if Ben would be open to a friendly amendment that until the end of June. Sometimes meetings get rescheduled, and so June is a bit ambiguous. So just wondering if we can tighten that up a little bit as to when in June. But you're the author of the resolution or the motion, so just over to you, Ben.
So what I'm asking for specifically is that we get something in writing asking them to tell us what timeline they would like to commit to. And if we don't get that timeline, we vote in the next meeting, which would be around June 10th, I imagine.
14th.
June 14th.
So it would be, yeah, we could even just specify by June 14th.
Given, like the idea of saying that we would move it to June, I would keep the amendment there. I'm going to vote against the motion. And I would also just, as board members, kind of going back to an old quote from Romeo and Juliet, be homely in thy drift. So if we're saying things are curious, or put it out on the table, like, well, what exactly are people implying by what they're saying? So that there's not this ambiguousness, or if there's something being questioned, I would like to know. And so, but based on how the current motion is, I will be voting against the amendment unless it just specifies specifically to a meeting in June.
So in this moment, we have an amendment to move the officer elections to June 14th. And with the request of the King County Council requesting information on how long it will take them to seat their 13th member.
I think.
Can I just clarify? Are there two motions put forward, Ben's and John's?
I think Ben's motion is now taken precedence.
And I think I can address Damien's concerns just by keeping it simple, and let's make the motion now to move it to the June meeting. And then we can, we need to delay it again after that because the county council has asked it to do so, and we think it's appropriate. We can make another motion at that time.
Okay.
So perhaps that gets us back to John's original motion.
Okay.
To June 14th. Can we just specify to the June 14th regular meeting?
Yes.
Is that plan? Okay. Gosh, I guess we do.
We have a second. We do have a second from Floyd.
Right, let's vote.
And then it could be voted on via voice vote.
Okay. All those in favor of moving our officer elections to June 14th?
So It's it's the full motion that was made, it's June 14th, requesting that the county council respond and give us their timeline. That does give us the opportunity. It's going to be on the agenda. The effect of this, in my mind, would be the board elections will be on the agenda June 14th. However, depending on what the council sends us, we may delay it further or we may vote then.
Thank you, John, for the clarification. I'm going to go and call for a voice vote unless someone objects. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Sorry, the nay was Christopher?
Damien.
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 Okay. Thank you, Damien. Any abstaining? Okay. Motion passes. We are going to have our elections next month. We will definitely have house elections next month. Anyway, sorry, I will stop there.
Unless we delay them again.
Yeah.
Oh, God. All right, anyway.
We did the bylaws today, so I think we made a major milestone, so.
Man, our poor public. Folks, I apologize. I have allowed this board meeting to go longer than I had hoped. We have our 5-year plan discussion as well as an executive session scheduled for 4 o'clock. John, do you have thoughts on how you'd like to approach the 5-year plan discussion?
All I would like to do is just make a very quick report to the rest of the board members of what the Systems Review Committee has been doing since the release of the new 5-year framework. We've had 3 meetings. We've looked over the scope and scale of some of the items that are within that framework, had specific discussions on the metrics, and this is just very high level. There have been some technical amendments that have been requested, and I know staff is working on some technical amendments and possibly some policy amendments that have come out of those discussions. We will be having a meeting tomorrow. What time do we meet? We meet at 3 o'clock. And I think we're going over within that 10-year framework, some of the more important parts of it that sort of set up the kind of the parameters around what we're going to do in the 5-year plan, how specific we want to be in certain items, and board members are invited to attend. Again, it's a committee of the whole. And I also want to thank those members who have regularly attended the System Review Committee. I think it has made it for a good discussion. And I will say everybody, I believe, who have attended are very much in favor of the focus that we have placed on emergency housing in this 5-year plan. And I'll leave it at that.
Alexis, did you have anything you wanted to add as well or share?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Chair Cholmanak, Subcommittee Chair Cholmanak, for providing that report. I think I would just share with the full board that in today's packet, we did include a memo that provides a summary of some of the work happening in the subcommittee and also identifies four policy areas that have been raised in subcommittee. With that, I'll actually also turn it over to CEO Jones in case there's anything they would like to uplift.
I defer to the will of the board and Subcommittee Chair Cholmanak, but I would be happy to take my executive session time also in June. I am concerned just about this board having an opportunity to engage with the material before you all are scheduled to vote on it. Of course, if that concern is not shared, then that's fine. But I do want to make sure that folks have an opportunity to engage with Alexis's thoughtful presentation and hear any specific feedback answered by your fellow board member, Cholmanak.
So I think we're scheduled as a IB board to take a vote on it on May 19. And your concern is that we may need a little more time for board members to have discussion with staff. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, in Alexis's memo, she raises 4 substantive policy issues that we were hoping to get board level input on. And that was part of what we had hoped to do in today's discussion. In absence of that input, we would be in the position of soliciting it in one-on-one briefings, which we can certainly do. But I also think that one of the things that, I certainly value is hearing from you all in discussion. And so would want to make sure that there is space for that somewhere. But again, I defer to how you all want to move forward.
Well, I think that's really more a question for the chair. Simha.
Let me take comment from Ben first.
I think we have to do the executive session today. I think there are some critical things that we need to discuss, and it's been a very long time since we've had, I think we actually have never had an executive session with just the board. And I think we have had plenty of time to discuss the 5-year plan. And I believe we have time on Thursday in the SPC, just tomorrow. If anybody would like to dig into that, they may do that, or I'm sure Alexis is more than happy to do one-on-one briefings as she did with me yesterday.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay.
I do think. Sorry, Chair Reddy.
Sure.
If we were to go into executive session, how long is this executive session?
It is
Anticipated.
It is scheduled for a half hour. Maximum.
I have a hard stop, so I will look to get the one-on-one briefing from Alexis, but I have to stop in the next couple minutes. Just me personally, that is.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Gordon. My recommendation is that it is incredibly important that this board discuss together the 5-year plan, but I'm going to encourage our board members to attend the system planning committee, or we will find another time. We will move towards executive session unless there is objection.
And I would suggest that if Alexis can do this at 3 p.m. tomorrow, maybe she do that briefing and we see how many board members we can get so we can minimize the one-on-ones. That would just be.
And for the public, I strongly encourage you to join us Thursday if at all possible, and I believe those are recorded as well, right?
Yes, it will be public.
To discuss the 5-year plan in greater detail and allows for more discussion, truly. And this next week on Monday, is that right, or Tuesday, for the budget meeting?
Yeah, that's going to be on Tuesday, the 16th.
And to the public, I encourage you to join us on Tuesday, the 16th, to be able to discuss contracting in greater detail and learn more about that issue. It is now the 4 o'clock hour. What we will do is we are going to move into executive session. Actually, how do we do? We're going to enter executive session for the next 30 minutes to evaluate, to review the performance of the public employee. During this time, no action will occur and the conversation will be strictly enforced to keep discussions to performance reviews only. Austin, you will be there to keep us in line. Thank you for joining us. And
where is the link for this?
I will be putting it in our host and panelist chat.
All right, folks. So, John, something concerning?
Just go ahead, and if I can't find it, I'll.
Okay.
We spent 20 minutes arguing over a prepositional phrase today.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm frustrated. I shouldn't show that. I apologize.
It's okay to be human, John.
Something may be shared. For the public, we are going to move into executive session now and then subsequently adjourn. There will be no action taken. Thank you for tuning in. For all the board members, hosts, and panelists, please click on the link that Austin has put into the chat.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
One quick thing, Chair Reddy, is that I assume that we'll be coming back to this link to do the adjournment, correct?
That's correct.
That is correct.
Somebody's going to leave this open.
Yes, just mute and turn video off.
Public, this is Chair Reddy, and sharing the executive session is going to be extended by 15 minutes.
And then just hit the camera.
All right.
There we are.
So this is Chair Reddy. I am returning to the executive session has ended, and I will call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Any seconds? All right. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.